Hello everybody and welcome back to another video here on Tabletop Roleplaying Gays. We have a really cool collab again this time. I think 4-5 people besides me joined in on this. I'll link to the videos about their work down in the description. I'm really excited for this one. This one was really fun to do. I printed up and painted a mini and shipped it to the Gamecraft Dragon, and what he did with it is really neat. And I got a mini from Ryan over at themaniacalmini, and then I painted it up and finished it up, and it's really cool. The whole premise of this switcheroo was that people would do stuff with a mini, chuck it to somebody else, and they would finish it the rest of the way. It was really fun to do. I've never done anything like it before. It was a great time. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. It was certainly a lot of fun to do. Have fun, y'all. Thank you, me, for that marvelous introduction that I am going to do later. Let's start off with what we've got. I'm still really bad at getting into the swing of recording, so I did a whole bunch without recording it first. So hopefully that's fine. Currently what's done is the models are printed, mostly assembled, and I finished the base. So let's talk about this real quick. For this model that I've already extensively talked about, I decided to take a 3D printable Space Wolves Blade Guard, I believe it was, and I took him and his bits, and I printed out a warg model, and I busted them to pieces, busted this guy to pieces, used some green stuff sculpting to reassemble the furs where I wanted them as best as I could, and he's ready to be I believe it's a Thunderwolf Lord, Captain, something. Still can't remember the name. And here's the base. It didn't come out exactly like I wanted it to, but it's still pretty neat. So let's talk about this real quick. Flip it over, first off, there is a Demogorgon. That's because the bottom, the 60mm part, is cut out of an old D&D miniatures box. Because when I was cutting out what was supposed to be the original base, the jigsaw strayed a little bit too much and made it way too small, so I just adjusted, added some ground. It's no big deal. It's cardboard, a layer of MDF that you can still sort of see, and a beveled layer of plexiglass. I wanted to get the look of clear ice, like standing on a sheet above a lake or something, or a river. And so clear plexiglass, and I just painted the underneath with various colors. Well, various blues, to be more specific. If it was focused, that would be lovely, so you could see it. I took some old pine bark there and there, and I took some rocks there and there, painted them dark grayish blue, highlighted them with a light grayish blue, just to get into the winter feel, used a file to scuff up the edges, covered the whole thing, well, most of it, in a mixture of white glue, baking soda, and white paint, and then I wiped off the center. That's really it. The base could have turned out better, but it's still pretty cool. Ultimately, he's going to fit on the base like that, have his arms, and his shield, his axe, and it'll all work out great. So now that that's out of the way, we have to kick into the main part of the video, which is going to be painting a color scheme that I've never done before, and trying to wet blend fur on this warg wolf. Wish me luck! Alrighty, so here we go with the wolf. Figured I'd start here because it would be the simplest, and it's usually best to start with the simplest things in a paint job. Just knock them out, get into the swing of things. I started out with putting on a couple layers of a base coat of gray. I figured it would be easier and would help me skip a few steps for highlights and for blending and all that if I did a base coat of gray. And I think you'll see in a bit I get out black and brown contrast paint that I water down pretty significantly to glaze a kind of wet blended brown and black to gray effect throughout all the fur as close as I could to the reference images. As I'm sure you've noticed by now, I am still not great at staying in frame while I am painting. I'm getting better at it, and I get better at it as the video goes on. Bear with me while I learn. It gets better, I promise. I would say, as you can see, but for the most part it's out of focus and out of frame. But if you could see, I am taking a lighter gray and I'm going around and I am punching in some highlights on the tops of the ridges of the fur. The 3D sculpt for this wolf warg were very cartoony and accentuated, and I kind of like that for it. And there I mixed up some lighter gray to go and do even thinner highlights and dry brushing across the board to really lighten up and even out the color, unify everything a little bit. In this chunk I just got out some black, some pink, and some whites to do the claws, the nose, the teeth, the tongue. All the fun little bits that really turn this warg into a wolf, like a house into a home. If you have any suggestions on how to improve my recording quality, the way my videos run, better suggestions for camera setups, different cameras to use, how to frame, layout stuff, so that it's a better viewing experience for you, please let me know. I know that I'm not super great at this so far, and I would appreciate any suggestions. Here I've just started on taking a grayish blue and starting to put it across all of what I think should be blue in the end based off of the reference images I had. Anybody who's painted Space Wolves or paid any attention to any Space Wolves they've seen will immediately recognize that I am painting these shoulder pauldrons blue, and they need to be yellow. I want to say it's because I thought that the yellow would go over the blue better than the black, and while it does, that is not why I did it. I did it because I wasn't paying attention and I forgot. But I do fix it later. Putting a base coat or a zenithal highlight or prime on black minis is always my favorite. I love seeing a generally uniform, no distinct shapes and volumes suddenly turn into a figure. Putting the blue on this really brought out everything I needed to see. It's always my favorite. Now I don't have any oil paints and mineral spirits, so I can't do any oil washes, but I used a very thin paintbrush and Nuln Oil straight out of the pot to try my best and pin wash the armor, just to get some more contrast in there, without having to meticulously panel line with black, because I didn't want to. I don't want to do that. To improve video quality, I was thinking about having less time lapses like this, except for tutorials, and maybe doing sort of a Maniac style where I do really nice shots of just very small examples. So rather than show you this whole shebang, show you some panel lining up close, talk about it briefly, and move on. I feel like that would cut down on video time and probably work a lot better. But I figured I should run it by y'all. So let me know what you think about that as a change, or if you think that there's a time and a place for time lapses. Where would those be? I am, again, fully open to suggestions, because I only vaguely know what I'm doing. I'm just having fun, and any way that I can make my fun more fun for everybody else, I'm super open to that. Alright, here we're getting into the yellow. I'm vaguely in frame. Oh, see? I told you I got better at it. Now watch, I'm going to prove my point wrong and then move back out of frame immediately. I'm just taking the yellow, I'm going in over the pauldrons, which I have at this point realized should be yellow, the kneecaps, outlining the belt, because I thought it would be neat. I hope you guys like the very unofficial style, just me talking over videos, and just kind of fun banter, rather than explicit tutorials. I enjoy having fun with it. So hopefully the casual nature is not off-putting. I don't like to take myself too seriously. In looking at the model, I can also tell that at this point I have edge highlighted everything based off of the lighter blue in the upper left, and also the model itself. I think I didn't include any edge highlighting footage because it was all blurry and awful, because autofocus wouldn't work, as it often does not for me. Alrighty, so right here there's going to be a big jump in progress from doing the yellow to done. I lost a lot of footage, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot. I lost doing all of the metal, I lost the bare minimum weathering I did, I lost doing the face, I lost doing the fur, all of these fun little tiny details. And I'm sorry about that. It sucks. There's not much else I can do about it. Moving on. So here we go. It is complete. the Space Wolf Captain, I think it was, on Thunderwolf. There we go. Is as complete as it is going to get before being shipped off to the Big Dee over at the Gamecraft Dragon. Oh, come on, autofocus. His eyes look a little crazy. I couldn't get that super perfect. But he looks pretty darn spiffy. And the green stuff sculpting to remeld. It all turned out pretty solid. I'm very, very content with this. I left the base and our good friend here separate, so that way if Big D wanted to redo the base, he didn't have to try to pop this off. And I also didn't add any snow effect or any weathering to the armor or the wolf, because I figured that if D wanted to repaint any bits, which I can imagine there are some spots that he may. I don't know if I got the scheme quite right, but painting around or on top of snow effects and weathering and all that jazz may be a pain in the rear end, so I figured I would be nice and leave that to him to weather to his heart's content. If I played Warhammer 40k, I would like to have this model up front and center in a Space Wolves army. I don't even know if these are good anymore with the new edition that just came out. I don't know if he has any. I just saw that he had some Space Wolves content, and I was able to find a wolf and this guy and butcher them and print them and get them to work out pretty okay. There's some detail that was lost in printing because my supports weren't perfect and my settings weren't perfect, but overall it's a pretty passable miniature and a pretty solid paint job. I'm happy with this. I'm super excited to get this shipped off to D, see what he can do with it, and I'm even more excited to find out who has me for this exchange, get the mini from them, and get it, see what I can do with it. This is definitely one of my favorite collabs we have done so far. It's definitely been a lot of fun. The surprise is awesome. I also didn't seal it, just in case he really hated it and felt like stripping it down. That's really all we got. Came out solid. Ice effect isn't perfect. The yellow's not perfect. There's lots of things that aren't perfect, but every mini is a learning experience. Every bad day is a good story and a good way to learn. And I'm very happy with this, and I hope he is too. And I hope that he can really take it up a notch. Thank you so much for joining me so far. Now for me, this is on a day, and I don't know when I'm getting my mini, but for you guys it'll be in quite a few seconds. Bye for right now. For this switcheroo, the person who was assigned me was themaniacalmini. So he shipped this out for me, and I am excited to crack it open and see what I have to work with. I'm very, very excited for this. I've gotten lots of very cool packages in the past couple of days. To really give you an idea of time of when I got this, the other package I got was the stuff for Etherfields, which is a giant board game, and the video will probably go up like the last week of November, maybe very early December, but this will probably be around Christmas time. I'm very, very excited. Oh, this is gross. I love it. I'm trying to be very gentle. Oh, that's disgusting. amazing. Wow. Okay. So, I am not familiar enough. Oh, this is 3D printed. Wow. That's disgusting. I love it. So I can tell this was 3D printed because I also have a resin 3D printer. And if you look super duper closely, you can see some of the lines from where the layers go. Man, the detail that he got on this is astonishing. God, I really wish this camera would focus better. Look how gross that is. Now, the rules of this challenge were very, very open to interpretation. The whole point was we would make a model, we'd paint one, and we would do what we wanted with it, and we would send it off to the person we were partnered with. Excuse me, I have a seltzer to my side. My favorite flavored TV static. And we would then ship it off, and they would see how much further they could take it. Now, for mine that I sent to Gamecraft Dragon, Big Dee, I also 3D printed a figure and kit bashed it, and I finished it up as much as I could without doing the final touches in case there was like a unifying scheme he did for his army and all that stuff. I did as good as I could with it without going super over the top, and left enough room for him to do what he wanted and add some fun bits and bobs and effects to it. Ryan sent me a message when he asked me for my address to ship this. I was like, hey, just so you know, I did like half of it, and it's up to you to finish the rest. Have fun, good luck. I might do some unifying stuff because I have a Nurgle kill team that I've been working on, and by working on I mean it's a concept and I have some of the pieces. That is going to be like fungal forest rot. So I'm thinking that I want to take this and make it like reclaimed machinery, maybe sculpt some mushrooms, turn this base into like a disgusting bog. It's already disgusting, I just have to make it a bog. But man, this is gross and nasty, and I love it. Ryan, you did an absolute bang-up job, and I am excited to continue to make this disgusting. Thank you very, very much. He completely unintentionally nailed exactly on the head something that's right up my alley, and it will be an excuse to continue with the Nurgle project. I don't think this can go in a kill team, but maybe I'll actually have to start playing Warhammer proper. There's actually some mushrooms that look kind of like this. I could do like the ink cap. There's so much I can do with this. I am so stoked for this. Ryan, you have... Man, good job. Wow. I just need to hit stop recording because I'm just going to keep fawning over this. This is awesome. It's nasty. It's vile. I have so many ideas. This is going to be really, really cool. And you guys will get to see that right now. Bye. I figured what I would start off with is going through all of the metallics with a metallic paint that I have, so I have a base that I know I have the return color for. I wasn't sure what color Ryan used, but it didn't look like anything I had. So, start with the big base coat of fixing everything up. Here I decided all the tentacle thingies that were coming out, I wanted them to be worms. So I'm going through with I think it's Entrails Bank. I took a dark red contrast paint, I think it was, and a lighter flesh tone, and I'm going through and painting the ridges and the crevices, I think it would be, of the to-be worms to give them a little bit more texture. At this point, I'm going around and I'm doing an overall wash of, I believe, Nuln Oil over all of the metallic bits, and I'm going in and taking the base metal color again and going over where I want it to be highlighted. And then here I am highlighting the metal. For the bladed bits, I'm using really small strokes of lighter metals and going back and forth with blacks to try to really push in, for a lack of better terms, the sharpened, graded bits in the hewn metal edges. Here I am going with a orangish brown paint. I think it's called Rust Color by Instar. And I was taking that to go around and weather. Now here's one of the coolest parts. I mixed together fake snow, which is white paint, Elmer's glue, and baking soda, with extra white paint so it doesn't yellow. And around all of the sores on this model, I am putting it all around and leaving the holes of the sores to mimic the devil's tooth fungus, otherwise known as Hydnellum pecci. It's this gross, fluffy, white fungus with these clear, goopy, red things dripping out. It's gross. It's fantastic. And here I am taking blood for the blood god and putting it in all of those gaps once it's dried. I do this multiple times to build up volume. Before I weather all these bits, it looks very cartoonish. While that was drying, I took the time to take some honeysuckle thorns and stick them through and out parts all over, because I figured if I'm fitting him into my theme, it'd be a really cool way to incorporate him. What I also did was spray matte varnish and then hairspray over what I wanted to be worn painted metal. Now I'm putting paint over it, and so the hairspray on it will act as a chipping medium for now. I'm taking a toothpick and water and the back of a paintbrush to chip and scrape and break paint away to get eroded spaces rather than hand weathering. I learned this technique from an eBay Miniatures Rescues video, although it works much better on large open surfaces. If it's this small, you're better off using an actual chipping medium or just painting in the weathering fully by hand.
rather than shortcutting chips. Once the 50s teal felt chipped enough, I went back with our original metal, and I am painting inside all of the black dots in it as if primer and paint scraped away off of old metal, kind of like an old car in a junkyard. Now I'm going through and I am weathering everything. Well, for the metal, that is. I'm taking a watered down orangish and I am glazing in rusty colors wherever I think would naturally settle. Here I also took some black and I'm going around and adding extra black lines around the chips that I think needed more definition. It was starting to get a little muddy and not in a fun, gross way. Here I mixed together a thicker mixture of baking soda and some of the, oh goodness, rust paint. And I splotched it on everywhere to make rust. And after I sealed everything with a matte varnish, I'm going back over with the supposed to be glossy Sinyells pecci secretions with the blood for the blood god, and also adding it around the thorns. I thought it would be fun to stick a sculpted eye on a thorn coming out of the face. So that's what I did. I made a little green stuff eye, and I stuck it to the thorn coming out of the eye socket for some extra nurgle nastiness. Once everything was finished, I started to finish everything up. I use standard artist's chalk, and I use a knife to shave some pigment off, and I'm using it to dirty up and dusty up everything on here. I don't have any actual pigments, and this works pretty well. I used brown to do some dirt around the bases of the feet, and I'm using black to do soot on top of the smokestacks and the, for lack of better terms, exhaust pipes. Now I'm mixing together an orange and brown and black to do some rust around all of the seams and where the metal meets the skin. Alrighty, here we go with basing. I have out my light green flock, I have dark green foliage, clump foliage, and I have my Elmer's glue. I'm just going around adding leafy bits to wherever I think there should be. I was picturing it sitting there by itself in the forest for a very long time. Kind of like how moss or trolls from old fairy tales get moss and stuff growing all over them. That was the end goal, just kind of haphazardly slapping it on with the Elmer's glue wherever it felt like it fit. here I am just going through all of the different bags of mosses and roots that I have, pulling out different bits that I feel like would fit as various plants and remnants of plants here and there. Also grabbing some bark and doing some extra basing. Here I'm adding some tufts, and I got out my pin vise drill so I could start drilling some holes in a little bit to add some really, really neat little, oh goodness, wire trees. I could not for the life of me remember the word trees. It's been a long day. Always remember to plan and to guesstimate where you're going to put stuff before you start drilling holes. You don't want to have errant holes. I'm using some really fine grit dirt / sand from my yard that I dried in the oven and some super glue to make a rock solid bond around the trees so that they stay there for hopefully a very long time. And here are the final results. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you liked it. It was so much fun to do every mini involved in this. If you want to see more content from me more frequently, and you want upgrades to cameras and whatnot for better quality videos, supporting me on Patreon is one of the best ways to do that. Currently I only have one patron, Alan Godin. I try to post there as often as I can, but I have to work a lot of hours in order to continue doing things, and supporting me there is the best way to ensure that this channel and everything on it can be better and last longer. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.